I got to know Ted through Gordy, through Mark, and when Gordy and Ted would come to visit when we were in Detroit, we'd just sit there and I wouldn't even pay attention to the game. I'd just talk hockey with them all day, and I felt like every time you talked to Ted or Gordy, you could learn so much about the history of the game and how much camaraderie and being part of a team meant so much to those guys. And neither one of them ever lost the fire to be part of a team. And he was an impressive man. He was an impressive man because just the way he spoke, you could feel passion for hockey, and especially the Red Wings really come out.
What about him as with the PA and some of the stands that he took, and just what he meant to both on the ice hockey and off it?
Well, he was a really principled guy, and it wasn't just the PA stuff. I remember him and Gordy were talking about when he went into the Hall of Fame. He stood up, and because family wasn't invited, he boycotted. He was a real principled guy, and he stood up for one thing Ted had going was he really felt like everybody was part of the team. That meant your family, your kids, every part of the staff. You were part of the team, so you deserved to be celebrated the same as everybody else. And he was really he felt very strongly about that, and they talked a lot about how the Detroit Red Wings, everybody was included in it, and not just one or two, and that's why I think both guys were so appreciative of the Ilitch family, because the Ilitches really brought everybody on board and made everybody feel part of it.
Capped by as well as you guys played Saturday, what do you think your team has found here the last 6 or 7 games?
Well, the hardest thing, and we're going to get a real test tonight because these guys are good at home. The hardest thing to trust is your work and your checking. And it's easy to trust your skill, and there's a lot of players on a lot of teams that have skill, but we're starting to believe that if we check, we can control the hockey game and not just try to do it with our skill. And I think that's what we believe in right now. And we're starting to get there. That doesn't mean it's not going to fall back again, but that's what all the top teams have. All the teams that are playoff teams, they check really well. They're just relentless on it. And you look especially out west in the Pacific, those teams that are doing really well, they just check you to death, and then they let their skill take over. And we're starting to learn what type of focus is needed for that, consistent performance, the second and third effort necessary to do that, and we're starting to buy into that, and that's given us a chance every night.
Has anything surprised you about Leon Draisaitl since the time you started coaching him? I imagine you didn't have a huge relationship with him, or knew too much about him in the past.
I would say the thing that's impressed me the most is how he's changed. Everybody talks about 200 foot, but he needed to change and just kind of slow down and understand that position and spacing on the ice was as important as effort. And once he started to do that, he took his whole game to another level, and he's at another level now that I think people are really, and especially people in Edmonton, should be excited for, because he's a 200-foot player right now with and without the puck. He's committed in both ends of the rink, but he's positionally really sound. And so whether he plays left wing or center, especially when him and Connor play together, there's an exchange of position all the time. One guy's down low, the other guy's up high, and they know how to read off each other there. But we got no problem if it looks like the game's leaning the wrong way. We'll put him back at center and play him down there. But he's positionally really sound right now, and it's allowing him to be a good player every night.
And was there a turning point in that transition for you?
Yeah.
Ken, the 2015 draft is never lost when these two teams meet up, but what's it speak to when both of these franchises with generational type players have had struggles to make the playoffs over the 4 years? What's that speak to?
Well, I think you have to have a maturity in your game. And maturity, I said this just a little while ago, maturity is checking. And And man, it's hard to do. It's really hard to do, and you need a certain level of maturity. It's not based on age. It's based on the disposition of your hockey club, and if you have that, then you know you can win for a long, long time. And so that's what everybody's trying to incorporate. We all see the teams that do it and do it well, but man, it requires an unbelievable amount of focus and effort to do that, and we're all trying to get there. And then as your team's growing, like we're growing, Buffalo's growing, you feel like you grabbed it, and then it leaves you for a little while. And so you're trying to get to that aspect of your game where you feel like you look at all the good teams, they win all the games where they're tied for long stretches in games. The game's tied, and then they end up winning it. But they're in control of the game because the other team's getting nothing, and eventually you crack and break. And that's what we're trying to teach our guys, is just to be patient. Being tied 1-1 halfway through the hockey game is a good thing, not something you should be nervous about. And we're trying to teach everybody that.
You're coming up on the 20th anniversary of winning the cup here. Over time, as you've coming back here over the years, do you have flashbacks of time when you walk into this building to that night? Weird things that pop into your head about how crazy that night was?
Well, I know this might find strange, but I never looked at that game from the day we left here at 5 a.m. I never looked at that game for almost 15 years. I never watched it back. I never saw anything. I watched the game that we lost to New Jersey 20 times. And I know every shift. I know everything that went on in that Jersey game, but I never looked at this until it came up in the summer on the NHL Network. And there was a 1-hour highlight package that they show on games. That's the first time I saw it, and it wasn't that many years ago. I just didn't look at it, and I couldn't remember much about it, other than we were in a nice locker room across the way, and we stayed and talked to each other till 5 a.m. and then got on the flight. But I did focus on the other game, the game that we lost at home against New Jersey. I know everything that happened there.
That's just like a normal coach reaction, though, is that you focus and stew more over the games you lose and celebrate the games you win, right?
Yeah, basically our life is winning is relief, and losing is just like living in hell. That's how we live our life. So we celebrate for about 5 seconds, and the rest of the time we live in misery. That's just what we do. So,
Where do you keep your ring?
it's in a special box. I wore it once, and having stubby fingers and a big ring doesn't look good, so that's the last time I put it on. And I wore it to one event back in Dallas, and that's the last. But it was, I think it's the best part about it isn't the championship. It's the friendship that you get on an ongoing basis. We can go, as a group of players and coaches, we can go sit anywhere and act like we've been in the locker room forever with each other, and we can do it all the time, and they can give me a hard time, and we know everything's going to be okay. So to me, it's the bond and the friendship that you created that is the best part of it, and all the other stuff is just window dressing.